Hook. Behind the bars of justice, a sinister world of medical experimentation was thriving, and the results are shocking. The history of medical experimentation on prisoners is a dark and disturbing one, filled with tales of abuse, neglect, and outright torture. From the early 20th century to the present day, prisoners have been subjected to a wide range of experiments, often without their consent or even knowledge. In this video, we'll be exploring 10 of the most shocking examples of medical experimentation on prisoners, and what we've learned from these horrific events. Fact 1: The Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment. One of the most infamous examples of medical experimentation on prisoners is the Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment. Conducted by the U.S. Public Health Service, this experiment involved withholding treatment from African American prisoners with syphilis, in order to study the progression of the disease. The experiment lasted for 40 years, from 1932 to 1972, and resulted in the deaths of over 100 men. This experiment is widely regarded as one of the most egregious examples of medical ethics violations in history. Fact 2: Prisoner testing of the polio vaccine. In the 1950s, prisoners in the United States were used to test the first polio vaccine. The vaccine, developed by Jonas Salk, was administered to over 700 prisoners at the Ohio State Reformatory, without their informed consent. While the vaccine was ultimately proven to be safe and effective, the use of prisoners as test subjects raises serious ethical concerns. The use of prisoners in medical experiments has been widely criticized, as it takes advantage of a vulnerable population who may not be able to give fully informed consent. Fact 3: The use of prisoners in psychiatric experiments. During the 1960s and 1970s, psychiatric experiments were conducted on prisoners in the United States. These experiments involved the use of psychoactive drugs, hypnosis, and other techniques to manipulate the minds of prisoners. The experiments were often conducted without the prisoner's knowledge or consent, and were designed to test the limits of human endurance and the effects of psychological manipulation. The use of prisoners in these experiments has been widely criticized, as it raises serious concerns about the ethics of using vulnerable populations in medical research. Fact 4: The Holmesburg Prison Experiments. The Holmesburg Prison Experiments were a series of medical experiments conducted on prisoners at the Holmesburg Prison in Philadelphia. The experiments, which were conducted from the 1950s to the 1970s, involved the testing of a wide range of products, including cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and even radioactive materials. The experiments were often painful and debilitating, and were conducted without the prisoners' informed consent. The Holmesburg prison experiments are widely regarded as one of the most egregious examples of medical experimentation on prisoners in the United States. Fact 5: The use of prisoners in cancer research. In the 1950s and 1960s, prisoners in the United States were used in cancer research experiments. These experiments involved the injection of live cancer cells into prisoners, in order to study the progression of the disease. The experiments were often conducted without the prisoner's knowledge or consent, and were designed to test the effects of different treatments on cancer. The use of prisoners in cancer research has been widely criticized, as it raises serious concerns about the ethics of using vulnerable populations in medical research. Fact 6: The Stanford Prison Experiment. While not exclusively focused on medical experimentation, the Stanford Prison Experiment is a famous example of the psychological effects of imprisonment on both prisoners and guards. Conducted in 1971, the experiment involved the creation of a mock prison environment, in which participants were assigned roles as either prisoners or guards. The experiment was designed to test the effects of imprisonment on the psychological well-being of prisoners, and the results were shocking. The experiment was shut down after just 6 days, due to the extreme behavior of the guards and the psychological distress experienced by the prisoners. Fact 7: The Guatemala Syphilis Experiment. In the 1940s, the U.S. Public Health Service conducted a series of experiments on prisoners in Guatemala. The experiments involved the deliberate infection of prisoners with syphilis, in order to study the effects of the disease. The experiments were conducted without the prisoner's knowledge or consent, and were widely criticized as a violation of human rights. The Guatemala syphilis experiment is widely regarded as one of the most egregious examples of medical experimentation on prisoners in history. Fact 8. The use of prisoners in pharmaceutical testing. In recent years, there have been numerous reports of pharmaceutical companies using prisoners to test new drugs. These experiments often involve the administration of untested medications to prisoners, without their informed consent. The use of prisoners in pharmaceutical testing has been widely criticized, as it raises serious concerns about the ethics of using vulnerable populations in medical research. Fact 9. The CIA's mind control experiments. During the 1950s and 1960s, the CIA conducted a series of experiments on prisoners, designed to test the effects of mind control techniques. The experiments, which were codenamed Project MKUltra, involved the use of psychoactive drugs, hypnosis, and other techniques to manipulate the minds of prisoners. The experiments were often conducted without the prisoner's knowledge or consent, and were designed to test the limits of human endurance and the effects of psychological manipulation. Fact 10. The ongoing use of prisoners in medical experiments. Despite the many examples of abuse and neglect, the use of prisoners in medical experiments continues to this day. In the United States, for example, prisoners are still used to test new medications and medical devices, often without their informed consent. The use of prisoners in medical experiments raises serious concerns about the ethics of using vulnerable populations in medical research, and highlights the need for greater oversight and regulation of medical experimentation. CTA. The history of medical experimentation on prisoners is a dark and disturbing one, filled with tales of abuse, neglect, and outright torture. As we've seen in this video, the use of prisoners in medical experiments has been widely criticized, and has raised serious concerns about the ethics of using vulnerable populations in medical research. If you'd like to learn more about this topic, be sure to check out some of the links in our description box below. And if you have any thoughts or comments, be sure to leave them in the section below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.